Georgia Rose from the Soul Space from Zencuda. Welcome for joining me tonight. I am actually broadcasting from home tonight because I'm not feeling great. I don't want to get sick. And there's a lot of sick people out there. So I'm keeping myself self-care, right? We talked about that last week. So welcome to the Soul Space. I am here every Monday night at 7 o'clock. And we talk about all things spiritual and astrology. And sometimes we pull cards and do tarot. And it's all for the beautiful goodness of our souls and hopefully putting you in a soul space this evening. So welcome, everyone. I am going to share the show. And if you all can join me in doing that, it'd be wonderful. We want to get as many people as we can into our soul space community. Just going to share this. The Zencuda Soul Space page on Facebook. You can join that if you're interested in collaborating with like-minded people. So this is the kind of time of year, I know where I am here in the Northeast of the States, everybody kind of hibernates this time of year. We all start to isolate and everything. And so it's always nice to have a little bit of interaction online, right? So I'm just going to see as you all pile into the show, give you guys all a chance to come on. Yeah, I feel like my camera's a little bit blurry. Hopefully it's not looking that way for you guys. If it is, I apologize. But tonight we're going to talk about the full moon coming in Leo and some other things. We just had Pluto go into Aquarius for the first time in 240 years. It was in Capricorn since 2008. So that's a big energy shift. And couple other things we want to talk about. We've got some Mercury and Mars coming together energy. I'll tell you what that's all about. And I also want to talk a little bit tonight about some things that might give our life a little more meaning. So I'm going to jump right into the astrology first while you're all getting ready to jump in and see what you're all doing. And I am just going to see if I can make my appearance a little bit less blurry. I think that might work. Yeah, I think that might work. Okay. So modern technology, right? So again, welcome everybody. So who have I got on tonight? Let me look at my comments here. Little discombobulated working from home. Have Anita. How are you doing, Anita? Sarah, Barbara, Williams Darby's on, a couple other people. So yeah, come on into the soul space tonight. Warm yourself. I have a nice cup of what I drink, like a lot of hot water with lemon sometimes. And some friends of mine actually call it dollhouse water. Dollhouse tea, because it's really just water. Like, remember when you were a kid and you drink dollhouse water, dollhouse tea? So I'm having my hot dollhouse tea. So I want to talk about the full moon in Leo. So this is a really important full moon, and I'm going to tell you why. This week, beginning this week, and we're probably feeling it already. It doesn't happen until the midweek, but I'm sure you guys are feeling it already, is we have Mercury and Mars together in Capricorn. And that's a really potent energy because you guys all know Mars is like that fire, that driver. Mars is the energy of emergence and new beginnings. And Mercury is pretty much our minds, our communication, the way we speak and the way we talk. So when you have Mars and Mercury together in a sign like Capricorn, which is an earth sign, a lot of times that can be wars of words or using our words in very aggressive ways. It can also be using our words to build something too. So this week, my advice to you all would be watch your words, try and use your words for really good communication, because it could be really easy to slip up and just say something in anger and blurt something out very quickly. So you really don't want to do that. And also sometimes when Mars and Mercury are together, it also can make us very analytical. It amplifies the power of words. So if you are analyzing something or you're giving a speech or you have to have a talk with somebody, make sure you choose your words really carefully, because in an energy like this, you may say the wrong thing and it can really be explosive. Also, this is an energy of math, science. I'm actually in a very intensive astrology course right now. And so I am really trying to work on some geometry and some angles and doing things with math. So it's a really good week to do that with Mars and Mercury together, especially in Capricorn. After that, before we get to the full moon, which is on Thursday, Uranus is turning direct. Now, I talk about Uranus a lot on the soul space, and that's because many times when Uranus is in play in our charts, it creates an energy of awakening. We'll have aha moments, or we'll be able to have clarity. But Uranus does this a little bit. Sometimes it breaks things apart in more of an energetic way that's urgent. It's not a gentle energy. And so with Uranus going direct this week, and then we've got Mars and Mercury meeting in Capricorn, this is really potent energy. And then we've got the full moon in Leo at the end of the week, which is a fire sign. So it's going to be a very volatile week as far as power, amplified power, that fire. We're going to want to do things. When Uranus moves forward and starts to go direct, you're going to see that a lot of the projects that you've been working on or something that you just couldn't seem to get together since last August are really going to start to move into play now and become much more productive. And you're going to have a breakthrough. This is energy where breakthroughs are very possible. Having a breakthrough in this energy is very common. This would be energy of breakthroughs to do with momentum, gaining momentum on a project or something you've really been trying to do. Also, what happens when Uranus starts to go direct, we also have Venus in Capricorn trining Jupiter, and the full moon in Leo is squaring Jupiter in Taurus. So Jupiter and Uranus are going to be in a conjunction or together in 3 months. That energy starts to build now with Uranus starting to go direct, with Jupiter in play in this full moon in a lot of different ways. So whatever starts to come up for you this week is a foreshadowing of what's going to happen when that really powerful conjunction between Uranus and Pluto, Uranus and Jupiter comes in 3 months' time. So really observe. You may want to journal right now. You may want to think about what's happening, even write it on a calendar or write yourself a note if you don't journal, or make sure that you're making, even backing up your texts and your emails, because you're going to want to go back to this time, because this is really a foreshadowing, a little glimpse into the future. And a lot of times when I do chart work, I'll look at transits like this to do a progression or predict what the energy is going to be like in a couple of months. And when that Uranus and Jupiter conjunct, that's going to be a very powerful energy of bringing something together. It's going to be a real momentum. It's going to be something that you're building, which is earthy, which is productive. And you're going to start to see the seeds of it now, because that Jupiter energy is squaring the Leo full moon, and Leo is fire, it's productive. And Venus in Capricorn is trining that Jupiter energy. So that's a foreshadowing of exactly what's going to be coming up on a much bigger scale in 3 months' time. Also, this full moon coming in is a very powerful energy. Leo is an energy, it's a fire energy. Leo is the lion, in the archetype of the zodiac. This is an energy that brings in a lot of forward momentum. It's an energy that brings in things that are going to really light you up, okay? Leo is an energy very much of performing, right? Think of the lion on the stage, the king of the jungle. Leo is an energy that likes to be seen. It wants to know it exists. So wherever Leo is in your chart, that's where you are going to be working with the feeling of, I am here, I want to be seen, who's watching me, I need to be seen in order to be existing. And Leo is an energy that brings things into form. And that's why I say this Uranus and Venus, this Uranus and Jupiter conjunction that's coming up in 3 months, when you've got this Leo full moon having a conversation with that Jupiterian energy already, and you've got Uranus going direct at the same time, this is definitely a foreshadowing of when that Jupiter and Uranian energy come together. When I say that Leo is an energy that brings things into form, what I mean by that is, if you think about if you ever created a project, or if you've ever done something that required feedback or required an observation, right? Like, I'll give you an example. I, a couple of years ago, actually created a deck of oracle cards and had them published. And it was a really beautiful experience to create them and write them and pick the pictures for them and take pictures for them that were going to be on them. And it was this really beautiful creative process because Leo is creative energy like that. It's connecting with source, with creative energy to bring something into form. So I created these oracle cards and then sent them out to the publisher to have them actually manufactured. And when I got my very first deck of cards, it was such an overwhelming moment because I had brought something into form and it was something that people were going to see, like it existed, it was real, it was brought into form. That's Leo energy. Leo is an energy where we connect with the solar light, the light within us, in order to bring something to form. That solar light is creative energy. You connect with the creator, that the energy that made you, in order to create something in unison with that co-creation. So Leo is an energy where we actually can breathe that into form, into life. So if you look at where Leo is in your chart, it's going to be someplace where you're creative and where you want to be seen. We never really exist until we feel seen, right? Those cards didn't really exist until they were in my hand and I could offer them to someone. They took form. They existed. That's really what the Leo energy and the archetype is about. So in this full moon, it's a great time to bring something into form, whether that's an idea or a project that you want to do, or even a project around your house or something that you have been thinking about doing for a long time and you just haven't brought it into form yet. In this energy, that can really happen. Or maybe you'll start something now, and then when that Uranus and Jupiter come together, it's really going to take off. This was really interesting to me when I did the research on this energy, because as I said, I'm in this astrology mentorship program right now. And one of the programs that I'm actually in two programs right now, which is why I haven't been posting as much as I normally am. It's taking up a lot of my time. And so when I started the first class, it was actually in August. And so you can see the projects that Uranus went retrograde during now are going to take on a lot of momentum. And Uranus just started to go retrograde in August. So with Uranus going direct this week, anything that you started in August is now going to just explode and move on, gain momentum. So that really excited me. And then the mentorship program that I'm in actually culminates in 3 months when Uranus and Jupiter come together and put the fire and the form into whatever we've been birthing. So that's how you can use astrology to guide the energy of your life. And it's really interesting to do that. And I'm doing a class this week for the company that I work for in my earthbound life called Astrology for Business. And I'm bringing monthly the full moon and the astrology of the full moon to all of the sales agents in my company for their production and their creation of their business. And it's really, really cool. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these things work out and come together. So that's the astrology. If you have any questions, I'm going to look at the comments to see if you have any questions about the astrology. Aaron is saying his south node and part of fortune is in Leo. That's really cool. What I will say to you, Aaron, if your south node is in Leo, that means that your soul has actuated its intention in a past life through the inner landscape, through finding your own solar light. So you're bringing that wisdom with you into this world, and that's probably into this lifetime, and that's probably why you have such a beautiful affinity towards tarot and astrology and things that are unseen, because you have that knowledge from a prior life. Leo is things that are seen and unseen. So when you look at the astrology of Leo, what exists for you, right? How do you exist? How do people see you? Who are you becoming? What are you birthing into form? That would be all in that particular house of your chart. Let me look and see what else is going on. I hope my camera isn't too blurry. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but oh, Pauline, you can get my cards on my website, zencuda.com. Or if you PM me, I'll arrange to have some sent to you. They're $35, which you can Venmo or just pay through the website. Yes, I'm going to be reading Elaine. I did speak to your friend. I'm going to be reading her soon. Hi, Chris. How are you? Um, so Pauline has Uranus in her first house, retrograde natal in Leo. Okay, well, that's good. So this is going to be a very significant full moon for you, Pauline, because this is definitely going to light a fire onto some kind of project. This is a real momentum type energy for you. This is a builder energy. It's an energy that has a lot of forward momentum, especially with revising and revisiting whatever was around that time frame in August till now. So this is a really important full moon for you, and that's on Friday. And Colleen's watching. Hi, Colleen. David Gaspari is a Capricorn. So David, the last 15 years for you, you have had Pluto transiting where your sun is. And that's probably brought about a tremendous amount of change, of transformation, transfiguration. I'll bet you are not the same person now that you were in 2008. It may have brought about some loss and things like that for you. But the good news is Pluto is now going into Aquarius. So you're probably not going to have that intensity of transformation that you had over the last few years. Anita says she's drinking pumpkin spice hot cocoa. That is really good because it's cold here. I know it's a little warmer where you are. Hey, Sarah, love you. Sending Sarah some love. So, Elaine, for Pisces, I'm trying to remember your chart without going by memory. Pisces right now, you still have Neptune in Pisces and you've got Saturn in Pisces. So it's still a time of transition for you. This could also be a time when you may feel a little bit limited. When Saturn transits our sun, especially, we can lose some vitality. But this is also, just such a learning curve for you. I think that you've really been opening doors to your mysticism, which is really, really great. So I'm going to talk a little bit before I go to a break. I just want to look at my notes on the full moon, make sure I said everything I need to say. Yeah, so the best way to use this energy in the full moon in Leo is we want to start taking real responsibility for our emotional body. This is going to be a very emotional time because there's a lot of things going on in the cosmos where planets are really changing and shifting into different archetypes and different energies where they haven't been for many, many years. And whenever those things happen, it really triggers our emotional body sometimes. So we really want to make sure that we are taking that self-care routine, taking time to go into quiet. This can be a very primal energy in Leo in the full moon with these other things, conversations that are going on in the sky. But it's also a great energy, and the great use of it is to really build your confidence, that look at me feeling. One of the things that we had to do as an exercise in our mentorship program when we were studying Leo was our mentor asked us to put on Facebook our accolades or our resume or something that showed all the accomplishments that we had in our life, because most of us are too humble to do that, right? It doesn't feel good. But sometimes we need to be seen, and that's how we exist, and that's how we bring things into form. So, everybody who's in the Zencuda community, on the Zencuda Soul Space page, I would love it if, whether it's in the comments for this show or whatever, just post something that you're really proud of, that we can look at you and see you, and that you exist, and we know that you're really dreaming something into form. And then also what I wanted to talk about tonight was, and it's a little bit of a heavy subject, but I feel like it's really important because of the times that we are going to be starting to go into in the next many years. So we just had Pluto. Pluto's a planet of transformation. Pluto is really in the chart where the soul's intention is. And with Pluto going into Aquarius, we're going to see a lot of shifts of energy, right? It just went in on Saturday. The sun is there with it. A lot of Aquarian energy in the world right now. And Aquarian energy, there's a beautiful video that I did. It's on my Facebook page that you can access if you want to know, more about how this energy is really coming into play in our lives and the best use of it. It's about 15 minutes long. It's not super long. But coming into this time of Aquarian energy, it's not the Aquarian age, okay, but we have Aquarian energy around us now. A lot of things will break apart. This is an energy of decentralization. It's an energy of breaking things apart, making us feel like we're in foreign territory, like we're in some place where we don't have stability, where we don't have things to lean on. Everything is changing and accelerating and changing at a very rapid rate. Those are the years that we have ahead. And I know you're going to say, but Georgia, we've already been in those years. And we have to a certain extent. But now those years start to really have forward momentum. And so it's very important, again, practice that self-care. You have to stay in your own space, live in your own little Idaho, because that's what's going to get you through, is knowing your own agency. But Pluto is a planet of lessons and losses. And Pluto really is a planet that something has to die to be transformed, right? I'm seeing a lot of people leave the planet now. I'm seeing a lot of people transition into whatever their next form will be. This is definitely something that happens whenever Pluto changes a sign, but it's also a sign of our times because a lot of the conversations that are going on in the zodiac. But there's two schools of thought about loss. And I'm going to speak here from personal experience, my own suffering and watching the suffering of others. I've helped quite a lot of people cross over in their life. I've watched a lot of people die. I have experienced my own mortality in my own battles with cancer. And there's lessons in suffering. I do a lot of volunteer work with cancer patients. And one of the things that I have found is that there's a transition that has to take place when we are in suffering. And I see it all the time. And the transition is suffering is given to us as a gift to make life more meaningful. But there's a lot of people who suffer and it's meaningless. And they don't learn that it's a gift. And they don't learn that it has a meaning. And so their suffering is for nothing. And oftentimes I see this happen, and then I see the suffering go on because it's meaningless. And the universe will keep creating situations and experiences of suffering because the soul wants to learn the meaning. And when we distract ourselves from the meaning and we get cynical and we get angry and we don't allow ourselves to grieve, maybe we go into detachment, the suffering has no meaning. It's just suffering for suffering's sake. It's not all about the suffering. It's about the meaning within the suffering. So I watched my mother die. I watched my father die. 6 months apart. They were both ill. I watched my best friend of 30 years die. I've watched other very close friends die, been with them in their final hours. And it was a privilege. The first person I ever saw die was my father. And he suffered, and he was so very brave. And he taught me through that bravery. And that's why it was a privilege. It was a privilege to be in that room. It was a privilege to be in the room when his body finally was lifeless. And this may sound really morbid to some people, but then I know there are those of you out there who know. It meant something. It was such an exclusive and beautiful place to share with someone, to watch that person actually cross over into paradise. And I suffered that loss. I suffered that abduction of someone that I loved out of my life. I've suffered that many times, but there was a meaning in it. And when I left that room that day, life had more meaning. I had more wisdom. And I knew that it wasn't for nothing. And I knew staying in my grief would make it nothing. So there's meaning in the suffering. When I was sick with cancer and I suffered and I was terrified And I had to depend on the kindness of strangers that I never even met before in my life. And they had to do all these things to me that were so foreign and invasive, and I would be helpless. That was a lesson. But if I got angry or cynical or stayed in the suffering and never saw why I was being taught those things, then it would have been meaningless. So what I'm trying to say is we're all going to get battered around a little bit, and life's going to knock us around. We're all going to have suffering. I mean, I've had things happen to me that when I tell people the story, they've said to me, that's too horrible to be true. It's not funny, but what's funny is that I'm glad every single second of it happened to me. Not while I was in it, but now I am, because the wisdom, the meaning that my life has, like, I take nothing for granted. Does that make me a martyr or a special person? Not really. It just makes me someone who learned from my suffering. That's why it was there. So I'm grateful I had that insight and that somehow I got to that point, but I see a lot of people who don't. And even when I work with cancer patients, it's kind of like I know when someone's getting it, when they know the meaning behind the suffering, and when they don't. And when they don't, more times than not, they transition and they don't triumph over the disease. When people get the lesson of suffering and they know what it was about for them and what the world was trying to show them, and they understand it, and all of a sudden they start to live from the soul space instead of the algorithm on Facebook, they heal. And that's the miracle of suffering. Once you understand the meaning of it, it heals. It's no longer a suffering. It becomes this beautiful space of gratitude. And that's why you'll hear me say it on the show. Gratitude is the antidote for everything. When you get into the space of gratitude, the suffering ends. The suffering is diminished. It's the antidote. So we're coming on some years where we're going to see some suffering in the world. We're going to see some suffering. You know, what's happening right now in places in the world. Maybe you're suffering with something in your own life. Don't stay in the suffering. Find the deeper meaning. Find the reason why it's happening in the first place for you, where it's supposed to bring you. You know, I got cancer to slow me down. I got cancer because I took a lot of things for granted, and I was focusing on the wrong things in my life, and I was focusing on things that I thought were really fabulous that really were stupid. You know, a lot of pressure on me that just didn't have to be there, and I was playing roles that I didn't have to play. It's very sad that the person I was married to at the time didn't stick around long enough to see that transformation, because I believe that maybe life would have been different. But I also know if he had stuck around to see that transformation, it wouldn't have been so intense for me, and I wouldn't have had such a deeply meaningful life, because I know that at the time, the person that he was then was not a deeply meaningful person. And so that's the energy of Pluto. It will remove things from your life that are not in alignment with the intention of your soul. And my soul wanted me to live this life, like I'm talking to you tonight, and the wisdom that I'm imparting, and, you know, helping people get over the humps in their life. I wouldn't have done that prior to a lot of the suffering I went through. And so that's the meaning behind it. It brings you to a much more meaningful life. And that ties in with the Leo full moon, because the Leo energy is an energy of the inner landscape, you know, our own agency to find the meaning in our life. That the meaning doesn't come from driving the right car or wearing the right clothes, or, oh, you know, I can buy this, you know, $2 million condo on the beach in Miami. It comes from service. It comes from living your soul's path. And unfortunately, we humans are tough cases. And most of the time, we're going to learn through suffering. That's how we learn, because the wisdom is in there. So, like I always say, the wisdom is in the trigger a lot of the time. So I'm going to leave you with that for a few minutes. We're going to go to break if Bobby's back in the studio, and he can go to a commercial break for us. And when we come back, we'll talk a little more about this. I'll answer your questions and maybe pull some cards.
All right. Is everybody having a good time tonight or what? That's what I thought.
See, we have so much fun here at Strong Island Studios. We have so much fun here at Strong Island Studios, don't we? I don't know why I'm blurry. I'm not blurry on my monitor, but I'm blurry on my, I'm blurry for you guys. Don't know why. I guess I'm just blurry tonight. So I want to go to the comments because I saw some comments in here. First comment that I saw was somebody was talking about their North Node. Hold on one sec. Got to go back. Okay. Darlene Attard, your North Node is in Leo in your 5th house. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. So you must be in Aries rising. So Leo, 5th house, that's the natural place Leo is in the zodiac. And what I'm going to say is that this full moon will be very creative for you and very powerful for you. What I want to say to you is with the North Node in Leo, it's all about transformation. You're here to find your solar light, your inner light. And also this is about being seen in the world. Now, many times when I say that phrase, people will be like, oh, it's supposed to be famous, or oh, it's supposed to be a YouTube influencer or something. No, what that means is that you are supposed to validate yourself by the observation of something or someone. Now, that can also be you. You know, if we give ourselves kudos and give ourselves accolades in our own life for the things that we do. But what it really is about knowing that you exist and giving yourself validation through your own inner landscape to be seen and know that, you know, God is seeing you, the solar light is seeing you, and really allowing yourself to come into the space where you know and you have the confidence that you are living in the world in that solar light, in that beautiful light of creation. So that's really beautiful. So yeah, with the North Node Leo, my North Node is in Leo too. And 5th house is all about creativity. 5th house, again, it's a natural house for Leo. So with the North Node there in the 5th house and that house being Leo for you, that's like really amplifies the power. It's natural. And also what I always tell my Leo people is, you know, Leo can be very egocentric. And the one thing you want to live your life by if you're a Leo is that the power of love is much greater than the love of power. So sometimes with Leo energy, you got to check your ego at the door and realize that, you know, you want to have that lion-hearted love and not the power of the king of the jungle. And also that reminds me, this moon is also going to be a very heartfelt moon because Leo is our heart. It's our heart energy. It's those chakras. So this can be a very emotional moon for many of us. Yeah, see, Anita's friend's mom passed away. A lot of people are definitely leaving the planet right now. It's just, we're in a big time of transition. David, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that and lose your mom so young. I see a lot of you are saying that Sarah's saying when her father crossed, it's one of her most precious memories, greatest blessings. And David said something told him to go to the hospital early, and that's when he was with his mom. Joanne says similar experience. She was with her mom when she passed and transitioned. And it's such a beautiful thing. And people, you know, before we have that wisdom, we so often dread that. Oh my God, I don't want to see anybody die. Oh my God, you know, it becomes this thing. But then when you actually experience it, it's actually a privilege to be there. And many times, I know one of my friends just had an experience with her own mom passing, and she described what happened to me and how, in the final moments, this beautiful look of peace came over her mom's face. And that's so true. I've seen that many, many, many times with people who are passing. It's just amazing. You can't. When my dad passed, as I said, he was my first experience, and that was back in 2008. And when my dad passed in 2008, that was when I actually really started my journey into the spiritual world and allowing all my gifts to come out. Up until that time, I had repressed them drastically, um, had anxiety all the time because of the repression of the gifts. And I talk about it in one of my videos on my YouTube channel, but I had such an experience that night when I went home, it changed my whole life. And you can't experience someone crossing over and walk away from that and think there's nothing beyond. When you see someone cross over, you absolutely know there is something beyond this life. There's no doubt in your mind. It's just such a beautiful privilege. Um, you're welcome, Darlene. And I agree, Joanne. Lion Power of Love. Yep, yep. Um, so one of the other things I just wanted to talk about, because I didn't want to get too heavy into the death thing, but suffering can be anything. Sometimes people have a lesson in suffering that may be a minor lesson. Maybe you suffer with something that's a chronic ailment or whatever, but there's always a reason behind it that is the reason for the suffering. The universe doesn't give us things to punish us or to make our life miserable. That's not why we're here. We're here to learn a lesson in a more meaningful life. So don't get stuck in that dot of suffering. So if anybody has any questions in general that they want to ask me about, you will absolutely meet your mom again, David. Absolutely. Oh, first time watching. Well, welcome, Lizzie McLeod. I'm going to send you up hearts. Usually my camera is not this blurry. I'm just taping from home. I'm not in the studio. So I'm sorry, but my voice is good, right, guys? You can just listen to me instead of watching, which a lot of people do anyway. So I'm here every Monday night, 7 o'clock, Lizzie. And the Soul Space is the place where we actually talk all things soul, from tarot cards to astrology to spiritual awakenings. And usually I have guests on, just broadcasting from home tonight. I'm a little bit under the weather. So if anybody has any questions they want to ask me about anything that is, what we're talking about, please feel free to do that. So Aaron asked, what's in store for the next year overall? Okay, well, this year I have to say is a powerhouse year. And what I mean by that is there will be a lot of chaos in the world, which that's going to continue. You all know there's a lot of things going on, especially here in the States with us, with elections and all kinds of craziness, which is why I keep preaching, go within, get your soul space, get, a really stable environment for yourself to go to, a place in your home or a place that you go to where you walk or you exercise or you are in nature or just someplace where you get really zen. You want to be Zencuda in this energy. But overall, for those of us who are enlightened and awakened and really, more observant of life, the deeper meaning, this is a year where you're going to have a lot of forward momentum. It's a year of Aquarian energy, new and emerging. So that's going to change a lot of things. I think you're going to see a lot of developments in technology. When Pluto just skated into Aquarius for a little bit last spring, and now it's there for the next 20 years or so. Last spring, you saw AI go off the charts. You're going to see things like that happen, especially this year because it's a new emerging energy. You're also going to see a lot of freedom and liberation. This is an energy that brings power back to the individual person instead of the structures, the government, the corporations. You're going to see a lot of different things come in where people are going to be individuated, and we're going to have more liberation and more freedom to be who we really are. You're also going to see, and this is very interesting in my neck of the woods, you're going to see a lot of gurus, astrologers, tarot readers, healers come out of the woodwork like crazy, crazy. So you have to really, really be very, very discerning about who you're allowing in your energy field. There are people who are into performance art, as my mentor calls it, where they just are really interested in getting hits and likes and a million people on their Facebook and their Instagram and their YouTube. That's not me. I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to inspire you. I hope to God I never influence you. And that seems to be the way of the world. I think in this next year, you're going to see a lot more of that come in before people self-correct. So that's what we have in store for this year coming up. Also, you're going to see a lot of energy in not just science and technology, healing modalities and things like that, but you're also going to see a lot of energy, especially when you've got Jupiter and Uranus coming in a conjunction in Taurus. You're going to see a lot of things with the earth, farming and food, natural resources, things like that. Things will happen with those things. Maybe new innovations with foods and things like that. And also in the same type of regard, things of the earth. You might see a lot of volcanic, a lot of eruptive energy that's earthy. Today, I think we had one of the most major solar flares that we've ever had hit Earth. We had one of those again a couple months ago. Today, those things will happen. You'll see those eruptions. I think this is going to be a record year for things like solar flares hitting Earth and things like that. So that's where I think we are in the next year or so. Oh, thank you, Joanne. I love you. You have such a huge, big heart. Everybody send some hearts up to Joanne. She's always like thinking of everybody else. And Carol Ann says she has a great feeling of doom that's going to happen in this country. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit, because I hear that a lot, and even sometimes in my most quiet moments, with, I have people I confide in the spiritual world who are my mentors and who I'm mentored to as well, and we talk about this often. And I think that we're in a time on Earth where things are so accelerated that it's really easy to have that doom and gloom. And we've also become a world where in some places we've become soulless, right? No soul, just soulless. Certainly, if you saw what happened in Israel recently, it was soulless things going on, and in Ukraine and other parts of the world. But that's always been. The thing that's new is that the technology we have, everything's so accelerated. Now we have these pictures broadcast live. How were they able to hide the Holocaust? Because there wasn't any of that. So I think that that instills in us a lot of doom and fear. And what I really want everyone to hear, and in your own way, in your own individuation, embody, is when that feeling of doom comes over you, use it as a catalyst to trust yourself, your own agency, and the higher power that has your back. Because if we go into the collective doom and gloom, we are doomed, because our vibration has to be higher than that. If we dwell on all those atrocities that are happening across the globe, then we become part of them, because our energy is going to start aligning with it. And we've crossed a lot of thresholds in our world that are evil and awful. But the way to combat that, the way to combat the doom, is to raise it up. And when I go into meditation, and I know a lot of my friends and mentors and spiritual people that I know, when we talk about our meditations, we often, many of us, have an experience where we're seeing the earth surrounded by angelic energy, by galactic energy. Like there's this force field around us that is so beautifully protective. But we have to strengthen that by our own vibration. If we're fearful, it diminishes that, it weakens that. So you have to stay out of the fear and go into the place of high vibration and knowing you're going to be okay. And knowing that there's a reason, there's a meaning in the suffering, there's a meaning for it to happen. Maybe those atrocities had to be in our face so that we really understand what compassion is, right? What kindness is. When 9/11 happened, all of a sudden everybody was so sweet to everybody else. And we were all, letting everyone cut in front of us on the parkway. And, so there's always a meaning in the suffering. So I want to address Anita's question, because Anita asked about how do you me just find it where it was. I know I saw it. Yeah, see, Darlene says she sees the earth surrounded in light when I meditate. We're all seeing that. Everyone who's tapped in is seeing that. I mean, I'm seeing angelic energy. I'm seeing galactic energy. We're so protected. That doesn't mean there won't be a war. That doesn't mean there's not a war going on out in outer space. But it does mean that there's a higher power there. There's a meaning for it. And you really have to trust that. Where did Anita's? Oh, here it is. So Anita says, where do you start to find that meaning you're here for? So we live in a very accelerated place in our lives. We live in a very accelerated society. Look, I grew up in the 70s and we didn't have all this. So for me, this has been a bombardment of energies, a bombardment of taking media in, right, over the course of my life. So everything's accelerated. It was much easier to find your meaning when things were quiet, when things were in solitude. And that's where you find your meaning. But it's harder and harder to find that quietude. So you find your meaning when you're on the floor and you're playing with your son and it's just quiet, or maybe there's soft music playing and you're observing that moment and bringing your body down into the present moment. Nothing else exists except that moment. There's meaning in that. And when we start to have enough of those moments, all of a sudden we see our meaning and what we really want to do and what the soul longs for and what the soul's intention in this lifetime is. I can read it in a chart for you, but then for you to embody it and feel it and actuate it, you have to go into it. And the way we do that is to surrender. It's not something you can chase or find or look for. In the moments when you're quiet, go to bed 10 minutes before you usually go to bed every night and just lay in a dark room and feel the body and feel yourself rest and literally feel your body just release. My eyes are closed right now. Can I just kind of release my eyes a little bit more? Are my eyes tense? We don't think like that. We don't do those things. And that's where the meaning is. That's where our soul speaks to us. But we have it so drowned out in so many things. And then we panic like, oh, I don't know my meaning. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. My life doesn't have any meaning. My life is missing. It's empty, because you're not dropping down into the feeling of the body. You're not dropping down into the wisdom of the soul. It's there. It's just under everything. It's under the laundry and the grocery shopping and the Real Housewives of New York City and the gym and the thing the coworker said to you and the thing that happened on the playground when you were 5 and the thing that just happened when you were on your way to work today and someone cut you off and all this garbage. It all has to be cleared. And then you find the meaning in your life. And for me, that was when my parents died, when my friends all died, when my marriage fell apart, when I got cancer. I sat in a room and there was nothing. I had nothing. I had no one. I had nothing. I came home from my best friend of 30 years funeral and I went to pick up a phone to talk to somebody and there was nobody left to call. Literally, there was like no one that would be on the other end of the phone. When my friend of 30 years died after my parents had died, because my brothers and sisters are much older than me, there was literally no one in my life who knew my history, who had known me for my life. There was no one. So that was an awakening. Like you talk about the Leo energy of we exist when we are seen and we have a form. Well, that was rock bottom. Did I exist? I don't know. What was my identity? I was a daughter. I was a wife. I was a friend, right? Well, those were gone. So that's how we go through these sufferings and these abductions and these losses. And the meaning of that was, well, Georgia, you need to go home and sit with yourself now because there's stuff there you need to learn. And there's some meaning there that we want to really tell you about, but you haven't been listening for the first 40 some odd years of your life. That's how it works, guys. So you want to find the meaning, you slow your roll. You got to slow your roll. It sounds simple, but that's how it works. Yeah, we spend too much time chasing a meaning instead of just living. Absolutely, Aaron. And the other thing is people, like, we fret about it. Like, if you went to the supermarket tonight and you were walking through the parking lot with your groceries and somebody started chasing you, what would you do? You'd run. So you can't chase your purpose because it will escape you. You have to just lay down and surrender it to it and say, okay, I'm ready. And there's an amazing book by the same gentleman who wrote The Untethered Soul. It's called The Surrender Experiment. It is amazing. It's a quick read. It's a great book, The Surrender Experiment. It's an amazing book to read if you're really looking to understand the alignment with soul and the purpose in your life. It's just really, really cool. Yeah, to slow down. So your dad was a smart man that he said that. Um, that's okay, Carol. I'm like, I'm not worried about it. There's a lot of, I have such great people in my life now. It's wonderful. And that's the other thing. We also surround ourselves with people that we think are validating us, and they're validating an illusion of us, right? It's just like people who only watch CNN, or people who only watch Fox News. This is not a political statement. Or people who only wear sneakers all the time. They want to surround themselves with people who wear sneakers. Well, that's nice. It's comfortable, but you're looking for validation of an illusion. Are those sneakers really that meaningful? No. But, is watching CNN and only getting that opinion making you feel better because now you feel validated? But is that really meaningful not to know what else is going on? Or if you're only watching the other side at Fox News, is that really meaningful? Like, is it meaningful only to surround yourself with people who are boosting your illusions up? Finding meaning in life means letting go of those illusions. And this year is a year where a lot of the illusions are going to get dispelled. And those illusions are different for all of us, but the one thing that they all have in common is that they're keeping us from our soul. And we all have them. No matter how much work you've done on yourself, you're going to have a situation where you're in illusion about something. And Neptune in Pisces, especially with Saturn there, is the great illusion dispeller. It's like the Mythbuster, man. It's going to bring your illusions into real crystal clear. So now what I have is people who will tell me when I'm in illusion, I'll call them and be like, oh my God, I'm so pissed off. This happened, that happened, this happened. And they say, well, who cares? They don't indulge me. And that's what I call my family of frequency, always bringing me back to my soul space where we meet every Monday at 7, right? So soul work, it's all soul work. Whatever you're doing in the world, it's soul work. I'm a realtor by trade. I sell real estate. I could give you a list of thousands of houses that I've sold probably. But the thing that's really important to me is the people that I've met along the way. Amazing people. Had experiences with people that I never would have had if I didn't have that career, And if you're a nurse or a doctor or a mechanic or a roofer or whatever you are, you're of service to somebody somewhere. That's the meaning. That's the juice. So use your soul space to serve humanity. Michael Singer, that's the author. I couldn't remember him. Thanks, Darlene. Great book. The Untethered Soul was okay, but the Surrender Experiment was my favorite with him. So Caroline, just try and stay away from that doom kind of feeling. We really don't want to go into that too much because then we're amplifying the fear factor. And we don't want that for you, honey. So we're all with you. Nothing to be afraid of. Just keep the faith. Yeah, Elaine says very quiet when she experienced her mom's death. It's true. And, what I'm going to say to you is, and I've said this on the show before as well, to help Anita and whoever else out there is really trying to get into that quiet space. It's through the breath that we do that. You all know, I'm a yoga teacher, and through the breath is how we center ourselves. I've gotten through some of the most traumatic times in my life just by breath focus. And I say it all the time on the show. The very first thing you do in your life is you breathe. You come out of your mom's womb and you breathe. The very last thing you do in your life is you breathe. So you take your last breath. So you have to have a relationship with your breath. That's the foundation and basis of all relationships and everything, person, situation, place, whatever you will relate to in your life. It's through the breath. The other thing I'm going to say to you, and this is what I'm going to leave you to think about for, we're having this kind of deep conversation about finding your meaning. So, and I got to be quick because we're running out of time. So we're born, right? And we're in this womb for 9 months and we're really comfortable there and it's safe and it's sound and we love it there. We really don't want to leave it. And then we get pushed out of it and we're born, right? From the moment we're born, we're looking for meaning in the outside world, right? We're looking for the breast. We're looking for a touch. We're looking for a blanket. We're looking for a feeding. We're looking for something in the outside world. We're like little babies, right? We're all looking for something. We're looking for something. We never try to crawl back in the womb. We don't go back to source. But that's where the meaning is. When we go back to source, the person that created us, the energy that created us, God, Buddha, Kuan Yin, spirit, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. And that's where we go wrong. From the minute we're born, we're looking outside for that womb, for that safety. You're only going to find it one place, with God. So that's where the meaning is. So this is the Soul Space podcast. I'm here every Monday at 7 o'clock on Strong Island Television. You can also find me on Spotify and every podcast platform. And on Fridays, I am at noontime on Optimum Cable. So thank you so much. Share the show on Spotify. It's the audio you can share. If the visual is a little blurry, I'll be back here next Monday night. We'll do some cards and some other things. And I've got some great spiritual guests coming up for you this year as well. And so tell everybody about the show. Let's build a beautiful community in the Zencuda soul space. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you next Monday at 7 o'clock.